Good evening. Well, it's evening on my side of the country here. I'm on the eastern side of the United States. It is 6 p.m., which means it is time for Spencer Uncensored. This is episode number 82. This is the 82nd time we've come on here live, had a quick discussion on something that's going to help you move forward, help you and or your business move forward. See, my name is Spencer Combs, and we believe that professional development always happens on the backside of personal development. And that's because businesses don't actually grow, people do. Firmly believe that when businesses are competing, it's not really the businesses that are competing, it is the leaders of those businesses that are competing. And so we've spent a greater part now of 2 decades, we're actually going on 2 decades this coming year, having answered or working on building around the question, right, what causes people to move forward? What gives them momentum? What gets them into mastery? Because we believe that those are the two solutions, the two patterns necessary to help you get where you want to go to help create what we call unshakable progress. Now, that was a big mouthful. And as some of you guys start dropping in, I'm glad that you're here. Good to see you. Maybe drop us a note or comment. Let us know, hey Spencer, let us know where you're at. So the last couple of weeks, I've actually been coming to you live from my Jeep, inside my vehicle, because I've been on the move. Today, I'm actually at home. As you can see, I'm in my home office here, and that's partially because it's pouring rain outside. We just had a tropical storm Debbie come through. She was a hurricane for a very short period of time, but where I'm at, we really didn't get a whole lot. We did get a good bit of rain, and it's still raining right now, but it's really nothing more than what we see. It's just an extended version of what we see here in Florida. So if you're in Florida, if you're from Florida, you know what I'm talking about, right? All right. So I'm going to see. I believe I've got my notes and everything set up where I can see when people are popped in. Good to see you. Good to see you. Okay. Well, let's get rolling with this. I'm going to, I promised you guys, I sent out an email and I sent out a message to some, and I said, we're going to talk about strategies to help you stay on top or get on top during an economic downturn. Now, let me give a little bit of a caveat, or just a little bit of a disclaimer, if you will. I am not an economist. I'm not a person that can read the tea leaves and give you predictions of any kind. What I do know is that there's a lot of people that I've talked to that is having a hard time with the way things are right now economically. And we keep hearing about all kinds of other things coming down the pipeline. We don't really know what's going to happen, but I'm going to tell you that regardless, I wouldn't consider myself an economic, like I said, or a guru, financial guru, but I am, in fact, a specialist when it comes to resilience, grit, moving people through difficult situations. And I would imagine an economic downturn would fall into that criteria. I really study the psychology of the whole thing because people get into despair. People start focusing on what they don't have. There's a lot of different things that can happen. So I did a little bit of homework in the last day or two and started looking into kind of what happened in some of the worst economic times. That included, of course, the Great Recession, right, of 1929. It's about a 10-year period there. That also included like early 1900s. There's other ones like after the World War, Panic of 1907, things of that nature. The reason I'm bringing those up is because life is very cyclical. Life has a lot of patterns. And when we start recognizing patterns, we can begin to recognize there are solutions. There are solutions. By the way, if you guys are awfully quiet tonight, you got me a favor and drop me a note. Let me know you can hear me. Thank you. All right. So getting back to this conversation around economic hard times, I personally, from what I'm seeing right now, I think there's going to be an issue with businesses having a hard time keeping employees or having to cut back expenses to keep them profitable, or they're going to have to close. We've already seen quite a few businesses close, and when that kind of thing starts happening, then people start losing their houses. People begin to have to change their jobs. There's a lot of hard times, And when those things happen, usually there's a big sense of hopelessness that happens, right? Um, there's a lot of stress and anxiety, and people struggle. They really do with either one of those things. And in today's environment, we have insulated ourselves so much that we don't like to have any kind of pain, any level of discomfort, going after what we want. We choose to numb it. We choose to medicate it. We choose to, drink alcohol. We choose to turn ourselves to entertainment. There's all kinds of things that we do as society, different things to take away the pain. One of the things, of course, is that people like to put their head in the sand. These are all things that happen when things get really, really tough. Of course, when that happens, by the way, and in extreme cases, it increases the amount of also depression, as someone, the actual diagnosable depression. And then it also, with that comes an increase in suicide rates. Guys, this isn't like an interesting conversation to have. This is a critical one to be having, right? Financial times can create really bad mental states for people because they don't know how to deal with it moving forward. So some of the things, by the way, that from a psychological perspective, that can help those things would be, of course, your social group, who you're involved with, your family, assuming that you've got a good relationship with your family, right? Even the arts, and just tapping into some of the what some of us would call woo-woo type stuff, right? Stepping into prayer, meditation, religious relationships also. There's a lot of different ways to deal with that whole psychology, but that's not what I wanted to talk about primarily tonight. Here's some of the strategies. We're going to go through them. I think there's like 7 or 8 of them, maybe 9. Some strategies specific that's going to be there to help you move forward, even in an economic downturn. Let me hit this insights button real quick. Okay. Just checking. All right, here comes all the comments. I don't know why my stuff was backed up. So I got way to see you, Daniel, and I see you, Alicia, there. Thank you guys for all being here. Now the comments are here. I can see you. I can hear you. I don't know what the heck's going on with my computer, but maybe it's better for me to do it on my phone. I don't know. All right, so listen. Here's a couple strategies that I wanted to share with you guys tonight. One of the things that you want to do is probably diversify some of your income streams. I know that it's an ideal thing for you to, focus in on one particular thing. But let me tell you something. I deal with a lot of real estate agents. Matter of fact, there's 2 names I just shared with you. Both of them are real estate people. A lot of people get into business of some sort and they make all the money and then they spend all the money. You should be taking the primary driver, the primary vehicle you're using to create income, earned income, so that you can turn around and invest it in things that are going to create income. I think a lot of us know this consciously, but maybe this is the moment to take a minute and kind of think about that. What am I doing? The reason I say that, and even coaches, I had a conversation with a coach not long ago, and I was making a decision about who I was going to work with. I chose the coach I have now, Michael Burt, for a reason. Because I had a different guy that I respected and has done rather well financially, got a lot of cool things in his life. And he said, Spencer, man, coaching and training, you're not going to make any money with that. You need to come do this downline conversation over here at this real estate company. I'm like, no. Let me tell you why you have to do all that and why you didn't make enough money in coaching. No, you're right. Coaching is not going to make you rich. When you make income from that coaching, you then take that money and go do real estate investments, business investments, right? And then therefore you can live off of that income. But if you're living off of the income you're making, your earned income, it's going to become a bigger problem for you in an economic downturn. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So the coach I work with now, he not only does large scale coaching at a very big level, out there on stage with like Ed Milet and Grant Cardone and all these guys. Um, he also has a lodge that he rents out. He's got a place called the Greatness Factory in Nashville, Tennessee now. He's worked to put all that together. Why? So that he could be a diversified business and business owner, right? It's not just about coaching. And maybe, I don't know what industry you're in, but if you think about your industry, you should be taking the income you make from that and turn it into investments that then diversify where you make money. Usually, by the way, if you're going to invest in those during economic hard times, it should be probably in things that everybody needs. I can't think of anything specific off the top of my head in terms of what people don't need. There's plenty of investment things you could go into. People aren't buying necessarily when things get tough, right? You probably should be making sure that your investment is going into things like if you're going to buy a business or you're going to go get a skill or you're going to do whatever, it's going to be something that everybody needs. You feel me? All right, that's number one, diversifying your income streams. Number two, innovation. Are y'all with me? Is this good? Come on now. I know this is a little bit drier than usual, but it's like a list conversation. But, I guess because of my uncensored self, previous, by the way, TikTok shut me down one of my videos. It hurt my feelings for a minute. Oh, man. I'm going to go back this way and see if I can see. Yeah, okay. All right, number two, innovation and adaptation. Basically what that meant was based off of what's going on with the market. So whatever's happening and whatever's going to happen, if you think you can consistently do the same thing that you've been doing and survive, you're gonna get swallowed up. You're gonna have to have what we call in the qualified champions framework or the mastery framework. You're gonna have to be flexible in the feedback. So if it's working, great. But if it's not working, right, then I need to make the adjustments necessary to get what people want. That's probably the bigger conversation there is what is the problem we're solving, and or more specifically, what is the problem that the consumer is having in our business, and what are we doing to solve that problem, right? There's so many different things that we could be doing, but the truth is that we don't need to be doing all the things. We just need to be working on the things that solve problems for people, right? I just had a conversation with a real estate agent this past week about short sales. Not because I think we're going to have a massive abundance of them right away. I have no idea. What I do know is that we're going to have some of those conversations. And so if that's a problem, we need to make sure that we have a solution for that problem. When we're talking about adaptation too, and we're adjusting or following the feedback, we also need to make sure that we're doing cost efficient things, meaning we're cutting out stuff that doesn't actually have a return on its investment. But this is how we've always done it, Spencer. If it's not giving you return, cut it out. Take that money and go put it into what actually is working. But we get so wrapped up in our ego about what we think we should be doing because it's how we always dreamed of it to do. Take your dream, put it aside for a second, and focus on the fact that you need to make sure you're making money. If it's not making you money, then cut it out. Quit it. That was number two. Number three. Sometimes it'd be more fun if I had if it was a live thing where we could like on Zoom, but I can't stream it in here that way. I got to find out how to do that again because that was a lot of fun that way. All right, number three, let's get down to it. Marketing and branding. So I will tell you that if you go back and look, companies like during the Great Depression, Coke and General Electric, some of those, they became really, really big and they invested even heavier, like even more heavy on their branding. Effective advertising is not going to be the area you want to cut your money back. This is where a lot of people go wrong. I remember very specifically in real estate. As a matter of fact, it's a Dan Kennedy statement that the person that can spend the most on advertising will always win. Period. So the whole idea of reinforcing your brand and pressing in on it, even when everybody's scared and running away, that's the time you can take up a lot of ground. So when I say marketing and branding, that is the thing you want to make sure you do not stop doing. Now, there's cost-effective ways to do it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, heavy dollars. Maybe to where you go broke doing it. But the truth is that marketing is not one of the areas you want to cut out. If anything, you want to step it up, right? And I would venture to tell you also that education is another one of those. Right? This is everybody just cuts back and they only do the essentials. Well, the truth is you need to make sure that you prioritize your marketing, you prioritize your education. There's so many people that cut out coaching when that's really the time you need to make sure you have somebody walking alongside of you. It's like, oh, I'm broke. That's why I can't afford a coach. No, you're broke. That's why you need a coach. Right? I might be biased. Okay. I get it. But that's just the truth. At least it's true for me especially. All right. Whatever number I'm on next, right? Because I didn't number these. I just wrote them down. Focus on goods and services. I think this is where, people that excelled during really bad times, one of the ways they did that was focusing on goods and services that people needed. I think I mentioned this where I was talking about the investment side of it. It also has to do with what kind of businesses and things that actually will do well. Giving everyone a sense of luxury and peace about the whole thing, but household items, food, clothing, all those types of things, they're going to be around. So maybe you're not going to change your business. Maybe you're not going to do that to go through an economic downturn, but just keep in mind that's where the money's going to be. All right. So let's say you have a service-based business, like you're an accountant, you're an insurance, you're a real estate agent, you're whatever, and you want to make it through this, you need to be building relationships with people in those industries. Maybe that helps. All right, because those essential goods and services are the ones that's going to make money. Go back and think about during the pandemic. All right, we had essential workers, the healthcare people, right, all that kind of stuff. If you were in real estate, you should be talking to those people and building a database of people that are an essential worker. That includes businesses where it's like plumbers, you know what I mean? Mechanics. We're going to need air conditioning techs. Make sure you've got good relationships with these people. All right, next one. I didn't like that one when it told me when I was like digging up this stuff. Talking about leveraging government programs. There is, of course, sometimes when you can leverage a government program, but I would tell you that you want to take advantage of every IRS advantage and code and things like that. That's another way to make sure you get through a downturn. Another one would be strategic mergers and acquisitions. What I anticipate seeing is a lot of people that are going to remember the whole branding thing? When you become a big gorilla in the room, people start naturally gravitating to you, and business owners will become scared enough that where they just go ahead and sell themselves out to you because you're the biggest one, you're the most secure one, and that helps them meet the need that they have. So when I say that, I'm telling you that either you need to make sure you're aligning yourself with a bigger brand or a company that's going to have the stability for you, or if you're the kind of business or company that's big enough, you can actually become the brand big enough to where you start acquiring other people. That's what I'm doing with one of our clients. Our focus is heavily on acquiring other people. There's another reason for that too right now, kind of aside from the economic issues. You've got a lot of people that are boomers that are getting out of the business, and they own a business, they're getting out. They don't want to, they don't have family members that want to take their business, but they got a profitable situation going on. Those are there's plenty of those opportunities, and it's a huge transfer of wealth that's coming down the pipeline here. That those of us that are, I mean, I'm in the Gen X crowd, but the millennials probably stand the best chance of taking on a lot of that stuff and carrying it through for another 30, 40 years and having a profitable business in their portfolio. So they're going to see a lot of mergers and acquisitions in the process, right? Partnerships, things of that nature to help create some stability where one company can't do something and the other one can. These are some high-level conversations, but I need everybody to understand, and economic downturns, you're going to have to be flexible in your approach as you move forward, right? Another thing from more of that psychological standpoint is going to be strong leadership and vision, right? The leaders that have the resiliency, the ones that are actually unshakable, this is what I speak on. This is the thing that I go and get brought into companies all the time. The companies that have resilient leaders with strong visions, they are committed to an outcome. They are focused on a plan. They are accountable for their resources. They believe in their processes or their systems, and they are flexible in their feedback. These people are these are the ones that have taken on mastery at a high level, like we teach in the book. That's the ones that's going to create or be able to come out on top. So it's not just these mechanical pieces of buying businesses or diversifying or any of these things that I've talked about so far. If you as a person cannot deal with having some sort of resiliency and be able to move forward when everybody's crying and frustrated and they're capitulating and just falling apart around you, the leader that actually can move forward despite the circumstances, right? Because we believe that the qualified champion, by the way, does not get labeled or defined by the circumstance. The qualified champion defines their circumstance. If you got a bad situation in the finances and the world's burning around you, right, you get to define what that means to you. That's another big part of this whole thing. I can get charged up about it because that is something I'm a subject matter expert on. They also have a long-term focus, by the way. This is still part of that strong leadership thing. People that come out on top on the other side of an economic downturn have a long-range focus. They're not focused in the moment right here because it's terrible. Like the world has gone to shit, right? We don't like it. It's terrible. We don't want this right now. They're not focused on this because what you focus on, you feel. And if I pay attention to how terrible everything is, I'm going to start feeling like things aren't going to be possible. Truth is that if you focus on the long game, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago on the chess game, that's what that is. Playing the chess game, playing the long move, looking at the next 3 or 4 moves to get you to where you need to be. Leaders that get through these types of situations have that. They have a long-term focus. I feel like I'm preaching. Can I get an amen in the crowd somewhere? Come on now. Oh man, Facebook has not done me very well on I don't know why on here the dashboard and the insights and all that stuff. It doesn't work in real time. It's the most annoying thing. Anyway, but I'm glad you're here. Yeah, I got several on here. I can see that, but it doesn't tell me. Right. All right, so next one. How many more we got? Well, I got one more. This is actually a big one, right? So if you're a business leader, like we just talked about, one of the things that businesses have done historically that came out on top on an economic downturn was investment in human capital. What we're referring to there is employee, like with employee retention, they prioritize retention. You would think that maybe, in the past, like people would just keep churning out the employees, but it's hard to keep good ones, and so they would focus on training and making their people even better. Why? Because in a tight marketplace and things are not as good, you have to make sure that you are competing at the highest level. Well, the only way to really do that is to have the best people around you. So we're talking, and this again is why I think some companies are going to go out of business because they're not going to be able to afford that, and they're just going to go out of business. But the ones that can invest in their employees and give them appropriate wages to deal with things, they're going to see training opportunities and growth opportunities, all that kind of stuff. and you guys have heard me say this too in the past, that the intangibles are what keeps people around for retention purposes way more than the tangibles. But at the end of the day, they invest in their human capital. And the other thing they're doing when it comes to investing in human capital, for a lack of a better word, some people would call it talent acquisition. For lack of a better word, really, it's recruiting. So when we're talking about investment in human capital, we're talking about retention, but we're also talking about recruiting. What are we doing to actively go out and find other people? I remember distinctly having a conversation with the general manager at the RV dealership I used to work at, walking around the lot, and he was his mind. He had all the leadership qualities. What he hadn't had was anyone actually tell him or talk to him about recruiting. And I had given him the insight that I brought in from a real estate perspective, that when you take top talent from another dealership, it's a double hit, because you get the bump up with the talent and they get the bump down, missing top talent. And so he went on a rampage making phone calls and getting people on there and bringing them in. It's going to be critical that you keep doing that. Even if you're not really prepared to hire anyone, if you are thinking long range, you kind of know what you're looking for. I got people right now on what I call my bench that I have talked to, I've mentioned about coming on board and working with me in the future. There's no way I could do that right now. But what I'm doing is getting myself set up so that when the time comes, I have a bench of people that I can reach out and say, okay, we're ready to bring somebody on. Let's talk. So you should be constantly looking for talent. You should be constantly talking to talent. You should be sharing information and helping people understand what your vision is. So we've covered a lot of different things in here, and I've actually gone a little longer than I usually would on a Spencer Uncensored. But the truth is it was a pretty good sized list. I don't know. There's a lot of angst going on right now. There's a lot of uncertainty. Weird is another word that a lot of people have used with me. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to diversify your income. You're going to have to diversify. You're going to have to follow the feedback, do the thing, all the things we just talked about. We covered a lot of ground tonight. The one thing that I can speak to and that I can actually serve your company with is a conversation around that strong leadership and vision, how to actually do that. And then also the recruiting and retention is something that I can also help you with. But at the end of the day, guys, we get to choose how it's going to be. And if things aren't going the way we think they should, then it's a pretty good chance that we need to remember that a champion is not defined by their circumstance. So, all right, my friends, it's been another episode of Spencer Uncensored. Thanks for being here tonight, guys. If you got any topics, conversations, or thoughts that I should be sharing with you guys, I'll be back on next Tuesday. We're going to go into some more of this tomorrow night on Wednesday Night Live with my private group and get into some more of the nuts and bolts of this. But this has been, I trust, helpful for you. And like I said, reach out anytime. Remember, we got an event coming up in Columbia, South Carolina. We have just created a price point that is ridiculous because, quite frankly, it's free. You're just paying for the venue and your stuff. So, all right. You can get that, by the way, spencercombs.com/UWE, Unshakable Weekend Event. All right, friends. Y'all have a good night.